Hey, whoever the fuck you are. Hey, my name's Alan Hill. You might want to write this shit down. Tattoo it to your fucking forehead. This is probably the third time I got shit from you or some kind of shit. Look, did you see a for sale sign on the fucking property? I don't know how the fuck you can't figure it out that you don't send shit. So actually what I'm interested in is buying your house, and I want to sleep with your wife, okay? So I can find out who you are. If I get another fucking letter in the mail, I'm going to come and actually I want to buy your house, and then I want to sleep with your wife, okay? So go ahead and take this fucking thing off your fucking mailing list. Got it?
I've paid thousands of dollars in courses to learn what you're basically teaching on your podcast for free. What you're putting out there is so valuable. So, I just really want to acknowledge you, and I definitely send everyone to your podcast.
You were virtually one of the first mentors that I looked up to and started following. You're always one step ahead of the game. So I just wanted to give you kudos and props for that, because lots of people are watching, lots of people are learning from it.
Tucker and the whole TTM crew, Dan and Chris, thanks so much for your support. I love what you guys do, and a huge fan. Having this support's huge, so I'm grateful for that.
What's up, everybody out there in listener land? This is the Real Dealz podcast, and as always, I'm your host, Tucker Merrihew. It's episode 230-something. I don't know which one, but hey, we're getting up there. I'm in my van today, cruising around. Little Snapple fun fact: I've been driving my van lately. I kind of like it. Back to my blue-collar roots. I'm driving this thing around. It's a work van. It sits up real high. Feels like a spaceship. It was going to be my interim car since I had lease expire on the company more flashy vehicle, we'll call it, and I started driving this thing, and I kind of like it. So it's been a few weeks, and I'm not rearing to get anything new yet. So anyway, we'll give this thing a whirl for a while and tear it around town. But I wanted to record a quick show for you guys this week. Last week's show, though, before I get into this, make sure you go check it out. Corey Thompson was on, Mr. Roughneck to Real Estate. Great show. Dropped some great value in terms of a couple of sneaky little tricks. Pretty damn cool list that he pulls. And just his overall outlook on business. He's a solid dude. And he's one of those guys that'll, he's not what you think he is, and in a good way, and it'll draw you in, and he's got a lot of wisdom to share with you. So go follow him if you're not already, but thanks to Corey for being on the show. Now, this week's show is going to be a short one. I was going to do something longer, but for those of you guys that kick the can down the road like I do, and you get your tax extension till October the 15th, for those of us that are self-employed, that's usually when we file taxes. Guess what? It's tax week for me. And it reminded me of all the fun that I have every year doing taxes. I feel like if any of you guys have seen the show on Netflix called Ozarks, I feel like Jason Bateman just crunching numbers, right? I'm not cleaning money, of course, for a cartel, but you get what I'm saying. So anyway, it's been kind of a, we'll call it mind-numbing week of number crunching. And so I wanted to just kind of share a few things about this process. And, basically what I relearn every year as I go through this, and why I just think it's important to be plugged into your books. I know it's, people talk about hiring bookkeepers and all that and getting out of them, and it is important to an extent, but it's also important to understand how to minimize your taxes. That's for damn sure. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Before we get into that, though, a couple things I want to talk about. Number one is thank you to all of you guys who are new listeners, who are also new users of our Driving for Dollars app. We talked about it a lot on last week's show, and we have a large number of people that decided to utilize the app. We've had a lot of great feedback, and we're going to continue to improve it with our enhancements, and look to make investing and creating custom lists that you guys can market to in a variety of different ways that much easier moving forward. So thank you for that. And then, of course, we have a whole bunch of other stuff going on as well. A ton of construction. We're finishing up 3 big projects here in the next couple of weeks that'll hit market. We got one closing today with a nice $500,000 profit attached to it. Yep, I know. I said it. It's big dollars. I'm not one of those guys that's going to go on the internet and post a copy of the check or, you know, a picture of my wire transfer or anything like that. It's just a little too easy to get people to follow and bow down to you when you do that. So I choose not to, but I'm telling you here, we have a big one that hits today. We got another house right behind it with a similar margin that should sell as soon as it's done, and then we got a bunch of other stuff. So we're making some good money this year, which is nice. Riding this hot market while it's hot, and also being a little bit cautious as we move forward. We've had a ton of lead flow. Like, lead flow's been off the charts lately, mainly because I think of our just sustained marketing efforts in terms of what we're doing. We've always done the same thing, which is direct mail. We've just done a variety of different layering strategies on top of that. And currently our layering strategies are working pretty damn good. So for those of you guys who want to know more about that exactly, you can join our Deal Finders Academy mastermind group. We talk about it a lot in there, but really it's just a matter of creating custom lists, marketing to those lists, and touching them in a variety of different ways over and over and over again. And this is the time of the year, and I think kind of the time in the cycle where you get a big bumper crop of leads. We've just been going crazy. We put a deal under contract yesterday that is in a super hot part of Southeast Portland, and we got it for a song, that's for sure, which is pretty unheard of these days. Most of the time we're at least bidding against one or two other people on properties. It's just the reality of the world that we live in, but we didn't have to bid on it against anybody on this one. And then we actually are starting a new rehab that I posted some pictures on this week. Found the guy kept his teeth, a ton of ammo, a bunch of guns, all kinds of crazy stuff that we found in this house. I'm heading over there right now, but the guys are still cleaning it out. It wasn't like shit. It was like, if you were an eBay fanatic, this would have been like, you know, your wet dream, because you could have gone into this place and there was lots of money to be made with all the stuff that was left behind. So I'm letting everybody on the crew and in the office kind of scour through and take what they want. So it's kind of one of those houses, which is cool, but we're going to get through it. It's going to be kind of a light rehab, and we're going to put this thing back on the market, sell it at a value, and should move quick. So we're going to try and get that one unloaded by the end of the year as well. So we got a bunch of stuff to close out for end of year. So it's going to be a big year, which means when I do taxes next year, I'm going to have to get real Jason Bateman-like and try and figure out how I can minimize my tax liability.
All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I've personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which, if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did.
What I wanted to get into this week is a theme that pops up every year, and the week before the 15th of October reminds me of the theme every year. And I've said it before on the show, but I really think it's so powerful that I want it to resonate, really resonate with you guys out there in listener land, in terms of the difference between being self-employed, or we'll call it having a business that takes in revenue, and being paid by an employer on a W-2. The difference is huge, and obviously it's huge in terms of just what it is, right? You're either an employee, or you're creating your own paycheck, or you're taking in income via some form of independent contractor, 1099 relationship, subcontractor, whatever it might be, right? But if you are a subcontractor, you have your own business, you're taking in revenue before you pay taxes. When you take in W-2 money, you pay taxes, then you get your money, right? Big difference. And that's why it's virtually impossible to get ahead if you're getting W-2 money, because you're paying taxes before you buy anything. You're paying taxes, and if you make a fair bit of money, you're paying a lot of taxes before then you go buy anything, right? So the advantage to having a business is that there's a lot of things that you can buy before you pay taxes. A lot of things. Necessary and reasonable is what I think the IRS describes as items that can be purchased for a business with the revenue, which is pre-tax dollars, right? So for example, I'm driving my van right now because I like my van. Bought the van through the company. It was a nice $21,000 deduction against revenue for this past year. But more importantly, before that, I drove a nice Audi. It was like an $80,000 Super Mac Daddy pimped out Q7 supercharged, nice car, right? That was on a lease. That lease was paid by the business. Totally legal. You can do it. But those lease dollars were paid pre-tax. They're pre-tax lease dollars, which means whatever that payment was, I'm paying it with pre-tax dollars. And the pre-tax dollars, to me, are worth about 2 to 1 what tax dollars are. So once I get taxed, you can pretty much just cut it in half. So it's a very important thing to understand. It's a very simple concept, but it's one that's elusive and people just don't get. If you spend your money after it's been so-called, we'll call it cleaned by the government, right? You run it through the W-2 machine, government cleans it, takes their share. Now all of a sudden you're spending money that they've cleaned for you and they take their piece. So now your money is way less than it is before it gets cleaned by the government. And so to be able to take in money before they get their little grubby paws on it and be able to use that purchasing power before they get their paws on it, you have a ton more purchasing power. You can buy a lot more stuff. Your money goes a lot further. And ultimately, that's how you get ahead, and that's how you kind of leapfrog from, we'll call it getting by, lower middle class. Everybody likes to call themselves middle class, but middle class is a very broad spectrum of, I don't have a whole lot of money in the bank, but I've got a pretty decent lifestyle to show people. And so the difference between that and being cush, money in the bank, do whatever I want, the difference there is really the ability to buy things with pre-tax dollars. And to be able to do that, you got to have a business or you got to be self-employed. And it's a very powerful thing. So as I'm going through the books this year, it just reaffirms those things. I know it sounds crazy, but I literally go line item by line item. Every single expense that we have every year in the business, I look at it the week of taxes and I analyze it. I make sure it's tagged properly, and I make sure that we're taking advantage of all the tax deductions to the fullest so that we can minimize our income, which every person that owns a business should do. But that's the power of it. There's a lot of things that I can purchase within the business that are necessary and reasonable for my business that I would not be able to do otherwise. I'd have to do after I get my dollars from the government if I didn't have my business. So that's the lesson for this week. I'm going to keep it short, keep it powerful, but understand that's why so many people that are stuck in W-2 jail never really get ahead. They save a few bucks, they work forever, they got a little retirement stash, they hope that retirement grows, but they just kind of stay stagnant and their wealth doesn't really grow unless somehow they invest in some stock that blows up just coincidentally, which is not very likely. It's just kind of a very slow growth, get the paycheck, get by, cover the nut. Hopefully your mortgage pays down over the 30 years and you've got an asset there, and hopefully you can save $200, $300, $400, $500 a month if you're lucky, after all expenses are paid from the income that you get post-tax dollars. So it's a brave new world, folks, when you can take that money in first and pay taxes second versus pay taxes first and take that money in second. It's a big, big, big difference in how you can live your life and how you can stack your money. All right, guys, that's this week's Real Dealz podcast. I know it was a short one, but it's an important concept. I'll see you all next week when I got a little more time and I'm done with all these taxes.
My niggas stack their money just to spend it. Cause when you die, you cannot take it with you. If you ain't beefing about the money, then what's the problem? Don't worry about my niggas, cause I got them. My niggas stack their money just to spend it. Cause when you I do this for my squad, I do this for my gang. I do this for my squad, I do this for my gang. It's Zuri for the trapping and a damn thing.